northwest Phoenix and suburbs. Congresswoman, welcome. Thanks for being a part of the program.
Thank you for having me on, and Merry Christmas to you in advance.
Merry Christmas to you. We're allowed to say that here on this show. I say Merry Christmas, and I think it's a good thing, you know?
I do too.
Hey, I'm in a border state. I'm talking from Tyler, Longview, Texas, northeast Texas right now. Texas border state. We understand it. So do you. You're there in Arizona. Matter of fact, what Governor Greg Abbott here in Texas has done to the moves he's made to try to slow down the flood coming across our southern border has pushed him toward you. The state of Arizona, why is it in any doubt that it's red or blue, given the suffering the state has undergone with respect to illegal immigration?
Well, you know, you are so right. It's a major crisis. The border is in Texas and in Arizona and, quite frankly, throughout the whole country. The Tucson, Arizona sector continues to lead the nation. We had 64,000 illegal border encounters in November of this year, and it just keeps getting worse. Fentanyl coming over. I think you probably heard that the CBP closed the Lukeville, Arizona port of entry because what's happening is the cartels were sending the illegal immigrants over to Lukeville port of entry, which is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so they didn't have very many Border Patrol agents there, and so they had to close down the port of entry, which is a big trade. You know, trucks for trade come through there, tourism for people from Arizona go to Rocky Point for vacation down there, and they've closed that whole thing. And this is just a mess. And there's been 169 people that the Border Patrol have caught that are on the terrorist watch list last fiscal year, and how many we don't know of because they're coming from countries all over. They're coming from China, they're coming from Saudi Arabia, they're from everywhere, from Africa. They're not just people coming over from Mexico to get some work. There could be some bad actors in there.
Well, it is statistically impossible that there aren't bad actors in there, including incipient terrorists. I mean, there's just no way in the world that all of these people are just, as the Democrats say, they just want a better life, so we should let them in. There's a whole lot of people that want to make sure we have a much worse life, or no life at all.
I haven't been able to figure it out, why Biden and the Democrats want these open border policies, why they want everybody in the whole world to be able to be here because of the national security risk. But it's also a humanitarian crisis for the illegal immigrants themselves. I mean, there's been reports now that they're selling organs of illegal immigrants, body parts. They're raping women. They're raping girls. They're selling children into sex trafficking. I mean, our own government has lost track of like thousands of children. They don't know where they are. This is like outrageous. I mean, it's kind of like a criminal behavior that our government is doing. And of course, President Biden and Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas are totally not following our laws in our country, and that's why Republicans in the House, like myself, we passed a border security bill. We did it back in May. It's sitting over in the Senate. Schumer isn't hearing it, and now we're demanding that, hey, Biden and the Democrats and everybody else, if you want Ukraine funding, we got to secure our own border first.
Well, and this is the thing, and you just touched on the question I was going to ask you, and you've asked it, and I don't know what the answer is except the most cynical possible answer. You know, the immigration problem that Joe Biden has created is a big drag on his dismal poll numbers, yet he takes no action to fix it. Is it because he truly believes that all these people are going to be future Democrat voters?
You know, I don't know what is in his heart. I do know that these folks that are flooding over, I mean, it adds like congressional districts, right? So if there's all these people going to sanctuary cities, which are typically blue congressional districts, then I guess you lean it towards, congressional districts. Maybe that's the first step before the voting, that all these people will vote for Democrats, because, of course, they would love for all of the illegal immigrants to vote because they just assume that they're going to vote for the Democrats. I mean, you had a legal immigrant, I think he was from Africa, that recently came over and said, "Thank you, President Biden. Thank you so much. You're doing such a great job." They all know that President Biden and the Democrats have open border policies, and it's really extremely high national security risk. It's a humanitarian crisis for the illegal immigrants itself, and it's costing American taxpayers a lot of money. I mean, all of these, 2.5 million encounters at our southwest border in the last fiscal year, and you compare that to just 3 years ago under Trump, it was 450,000. So all of these people have to go somewhere. They're going to take other people's jobs. They're going to be in our schools and our hospitals. I mean, we just can't continue at this pace. It's just no country can do this. Just take everybody from the entire world into our country and not vet them properly. And so that's why we're holding strong. The Republicans in the U.S. House were like, okay, you want Ukraine funding? Well, you better give us border security. And I'm not just talking about money to process more illegal immigrants. I'm talking about you better change the policies, like remain in Mexico, reinstate that, so that when people claim asylum, they have to remain either in Mexico or a third safe country, in a third country, and also increase asylum standards so that anybody and everybody can't just claim asylum. There has to be some higher standards. And so these are all logical things. I think most of America would approve of them. It's just, they just don't listen. They're not listening. I'm meaning Biden and the Democrats.
Congresswoman Debbie Lesko from the 8th District of Arizona is on the line with us here. So, Congresswoman, look, you sit on the Committee for Energy and Commerce. You're on the Energy Committee, House Energy Committee. I have two things I want to say to you. Number one, I defied Joe Biden in August, and I bought a brand new gasoline-powered car, even though I'm supposed to buy an electric car, which leads into my question. When the Biden administration is pushing us all to go buy electric cars, has anybody asked them, where does the electric grid capacity come from to charge all these car batteries? And if they have, what has the answer been?
Well, yes. In fact, we have asked that because we had the Secretary Granholm, who's the Secretary of Energy, testify in front of our committee, and we asked her exactly that. Plus, the Biden administration wants to, get rid of natural gas in using in the power plants. At the same time, they're pushing just solar and wind, which is intermittent. There's nothing wrong with solar and wind. It's just don't mandate it. And we just passed the U.S. House. The Republicans just pushed through and passed a bill that is now sitting in the Senate saying we're against the Biden mandate that requires that 67% of all cars manufactured by 2032 have to be all electric. I mean, they're doing this through the EPA. This is how Biden is doing all this stuff. He's going through the agencies. They're enacting these rules, just like the rule that would ban gas stoves. I had to do a bill. I sponsored a bill that got passed out of the House that would prohibit Biden from banning gas stoves. It was called Save Our Gas Stoves Act. I'm doing one called Hands Off Our Home Appliances, because they're going after our dishwashers, our washing machines, our water heaters, our furnaces. They're trying to get rid of anything that uses natural gas because for whatever reason they're obsessed with getting rid of natural gas. And then we don't have enough energy. There's also already warnings that we don't have enough electricity.
Electric cars use natural gas.
It's just
because that's how you generate electricity.
Exactly. People, I'm serious. Sometimes I think some of my Democratic colleagues don't realize what it takes to, when you turn, all they think is, oh, you just plug something in. They don't think of where does that electricity come from? We need to power it. So, yeah, no, our electric grid cannot support all those electric cars. Also, we just had a committee hearing in Energy and Commerce yesterday about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence takes a huge amount of electricity for all the data centers and all the processing. It will take, I think they said 5 to 6 times as much energy as the electric vehicles will. And so that's another drain on the electric grid. And so pretty soon we're all going to be like California, where they have blackouts and they don't have electricity, and then they mandate that you have to have an electric vehicle, but they tell you, oh, you can't plug it in. Sorry, we don't have electricity.
That was the sweetest of ironies, and it was very badly underreported. You're right. In California, it says you have to drive an electric car. It got hot and they got tight for energy, and Newsom says don't plug in your electric car. And you don't see the irony in that. Congressman Debbie Lesko is with us. On the subject of energy, I was here in Texas, and I live in Texas. We all remember here in Texas, 2021, when for the first time ever since numbers have been recorded, for the first time in recorded history, all 254 counties in Texas went below freezing at the same time on the same day. That had never happened before. I think I lost track. 6 or 8 counties had never recorded a freezing temperature, a temperature below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That had never happened. The strain on the electric grid was phenomenal, and it was completely without precedent. And 2 things were at work during that. Number one, it just wasn't ready for temperatures that cold. We had natural gas-fired plants where they had plenty of fuel available, but the regulators that regulated the flow of natural gas into the turbine, the regulators froze. But the other thing is, and this is what the point I want you to help me make. The other thing is, we in Texas, like a whole lot of the rest of the country, had taken a whole lot of coal and natural gas-fired plants offline. And we were on the bubble anyway. And then when it got incredibly cold, we just couldn't handle it. How do they imagine that you're going to keep a country running by taking electric plants offline when China's putting them online?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's total insanity, and I have talked to the Biden administration about this too, over and over again. Talked to the Secretary of Energy, not just me, but all the Republicans on the Energy and Commerce Committee. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. So at the same time that Biden wants to mandate all electric vehicles, which take 4 times as much copper, they need lithium batteries, they're going to put more demand on the grid. Then he wants to get rid of natural gas by saying, oh, you have to have zero emissions, by some people say 2050. There's all different ones, right? Some are 2030, 2032. And it makes no sense because at the same time they want all this stuff and they're mandating it, they're getting rid of natural gas. They want to get rid of coal, which by and far is going away anyway because they replace the coal plants with natural gas plants. But then they say you can't mine anyway either. In Arizona, we have a copper mine that they dug down 6,800 feet underground to get copper. It would have produced
a long way.
25% of all of the copper demand in the United States would have been satisfied with that copper mine. It was approved under the Trump administration to go ahead with it, and then 2 months into the Biden administration, they pulled back the permit. And it's like, what the heck? So you want all this stuff, but you don't want to approve lithium mines in Arizona or copper mines in Arizona or in Minnesota. So we're more reliant on China. China is the one that processes all the lithium, or like 90-some% of the lithium. China is the one that's buying up all the mines all over the world. I mean, all they're doing is making us more reliant on China, and who knows? Maybe it's because he got paid off by China.
The cynic in you has to ask that question, doesn't it? You know, why would he be doing this? Why is he? And he's doing this to his own political detriment, and yet he keeps doing it. And you have to ask the question: maybe he has been paid to be doing it. The cynic inside me makes me ask that question. Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, you started the call off with a great line. We're going to end it with a great line. I wish you a Merry Christmas.
And I wish you a Merry Christmas and all your listeners, too. God bless you.
We still live in the greatest country in the world. Let's have a great 2024. Thanks for being part of the program. Good stuff. We appreciate it.